All right, hey guys. For this week for Sunday school, we're starting to look at the resurrection and kind of some ways that we can know that that is true, and it's not something that is just a fairy tale or anything like that. Josh McDowell, one of my favorite authors, he says that the resurrection of Jesus is one of the most wicked, vicious, heartless hoaxes ever foisted upon the minds of humanity, or it is the most important fact of history. Our entire faith is hinged on the resurrection. If Jesus did not raise from the dead, then nothing else really matters. He was just a good man that died in Jerusalem 2,000 years ago. So it's really important that we kind of nail this down. The idea that something like this being a hoax, it's almost beyond thought. That it would be this cruel for people to actually go out and to make the story, to give people hope, to give people the hope and this and the prayer that there is something coming. There's a better day coming. So to give them that hope and to take it away, or just to lie about it, it would be one of the cruelest things ever, and people know that. And that's one of the reasons why I think that the authors of the Gospels, when they write down this story, they mean business. They mean what they're talking about, and we're going to talk a little bit about that here in just a minute. But one of the things, and I do, this is kind of a challenge for you guys. One of the things is we talk about the resurrection like it's something that had never happened before or anything like that. That nobody had ever been resurrected before, and there had been. There's actually a few occasions in the Bible where this happens. So last week I gave you guys a challenge to send me some prophecies of Jesus and the fulfillment in the Bible, and a couple of y'all did that. I'm really proud of Luke, and I'm really proud of Emily for doing that. You got some prizes in the mail coming. Should be very soon. But I've got a new challenge for you this week. I want you to figure out how many people in the Bible were raised from the dead. How many people in the Bible were raised from the dead? And I just want you to send that to me and let me know. You get some bonus points if you can actually give me the verses of where it is. Don't care how you find it, figure it out, get it sent to me, and I'll get you something sent out in the mail this week as a prize for doing that. So definitely take care of that this week. It's kind of cool to see how many times this happened in the Bible. But with the lesson, one of the greatest proofs against the hoax of the resurrection, it's the disciples. And I want you to think about them for just a minute and kind of what their life looked like for several years. They had followed Jesus for over 3 years. They'd abandoned everything to follow him, family, friends, the lifestyle they had before, their reputation. They had given up literally everything to follow this man. They watched him be brutally mocked. They watched him be beaten and tortured and murdered. And at the end, they kind of threw their hat in and just went back to their old lives. Um, and I can't really say anything about that because I think it's kind of a picture of what a lot of us would do, that when we feel like hope has just gone, that we kind of just give up and go back to our comfort zone, go back to our place where we uh, felt okay before or something like that. So that's what they did. And this just took a couple days. It didn't take months. It didn't take years for this to happen. Remember, Jesus was only dead for 3 days. And in that 3 day period, they went back to their old lives. So they went back to their old lives. And then something unbelievable happened. And in John 21 and verse 3, John 21 and verse 3 through 7, we're going to read these few verses. It says, Simon Peter said unto them, I go a fishing. And they say unto him, We can go with thee. And they went forth and entered into a ship immediately. And that night they caught nothing. But when the morning was come, Jesus stood on the shore. But the disciples knew not that it was Jesus. Then Jesus saith unto them, Children, have ye any meat? And they answered him, No. And he said unto them, Cast the net on the right side of the ship, and ye shall find. And they cast the net therefore, and now they were not able to draw it for multitude of fishes. Therefore the disciples whom Jesus loved saith unto Peter, It is the Lord. Now when Simon Peter heard that it was the Lord, he girt his fisher's coat unto him, for he was naked, and did cast himself into the sea. So they went back to their old lives, and then they saw Jesus. This caused Peter to jump into the water and swim up to the water to see him. The rest of the disciples, as you hear the story, if you go on and read on from this, they take a small boat back to land to be with Jesus. But this is kind of the point of it. After all the good and all the bad things that the disciples had seen, and after everything they had seen and the way that they had walked away, something happened after the death of Jesus that caused them to go from their old life again to every one of them, except for John, being willing to give up their life. And John, they tried to kill him, and through providence was not able to kill him. So something happened. They saw something on that beach. They saw something in that room when Jesus came to them. The women saw something at the tomb when they saw Jesus that changed them from being upset and broken to being willing to give their lives, to live their life for him, and to give their lives for the cause of Christianity. I don't know about you, but it would take a lot for me to get to that point where I'm willing to give my life for something. My faith is one of the things. My family is one of those things. But to get to that point to where I'm willing to give that's not a small leap. So something huge happened for them in that moment that changed literally everything for them. And it caused them to be willing to give up everything for this cause, and to go even further than they ever had, even walking side by side with Jesus. They were more faithful, and they were more passionate now than they were when they were walking side by side with him. So the only thing that makes sense about this is that they saw the risen Christ. That's the only thing that makes sense to me that they could have seen. One of the other things that they kind of proofs about this is that it's not just the change in the disciples and their kind of like testimony and their story about what they about how Jesus had been raised from the dead, but Jesus was not just seen by a couple disciples. So you can kind of throw the idea out that this was just something that they had come up with. Jesus was seen by over 500 witnesses in 14 different places. In a court of law, one witness saying what you had done is enough to literally send somebody to death. One witness is enough. We look at it that way. But in this, there was over 500 people that saw Jesus. And to me, that pretty much is an open and shut case. Now, for us, we look at it as, well, they could have just put that number in there. But I want you to read a verse with me, and this is a really interesting verse, but in 1 Corinthians 15 and verse 6. And this is one of the first parts of first parts of the New Testament that was actually written. Paul writes here in chapter 15, verse 6. He says that after that, he was seen of above 500 brethren at once. So, talking about Jesus, he had been seen of over 500 people, of whom the greater part remain unto this present, but some are fallen asleep. When Paul is writing this, he's telling them that over 500 people had seen the risen Christ, and that of those 500 people, the majority of them are still alive. Now, why would he write that? Why would he put something out there that, listen, guys, if you want verification that Jesus was alive, man, there's several hundred people out here that you can go and talk to that saw him. It's not just a couple disciples that maybe pulled off the greatest hoax in history, but there are hundreds of people that saw him walking and teaching and still doing miracles. So, he would not have put himself, if this was a hoax, if this was a lie, he would not have put himself in this position. he would not have even referenced whether they were still around or not. I'm sure if we lived in this day when Paul was and we wrote back to him, it's like, well, who were some of these people? I feel like he would have given us names and said, go and talk to them and find out what they have to say. So, so he does this so that people can know and so that they can have us talk to some eyewitness accounts of Jesus being resurrected from the dead. Um, these are just a couple of the reasons that like we can have faith in the resurrection, and there's a ton more. And I'm trying not to kind of get down into uh, philosophy and reason and science because there are a lot of different things. One of the great things that you can check out if you're interested in more of this is Lee Strobel's book, The Case for Christ. In that, he talks about some interviews he does with some leading people in their fields that kind of direct you towards the fact that the resurrection can be trusted. There's a pretty good movie actually about it too, where they kind of go over some of the same stuff. So if if you're not a big fan of reading, go check out the movie. And there's some really good stuff out there about how we can trust that the resurrection is true. Guys, we love you. I hope to talk to you and see you some this week. And if you got any questions, let me know and message me that number about how many people have been resurrected in the Bible. And if you can send me the verses, that'll be some bonus points. All right. Okay, guys, we love you. Bye.